بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد أحبتي في الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته حياكم الله أسأل الله كريم رب العرش العظيم أن يتولنا في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم عني على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك اللهم إني أعوذ بك أن أشرك بك وأنا أعلم واستغفرك من العالمين. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mercy upon us, forgives us, guides us, rectifies our condition and affairs, blesses us to be better slaves to Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala protect us from any and all kinds of su, any and all kinds of evil. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Ahabati fillah, one of the things that we see, which in fact is a crisis that we deal with, is so many of the people seek knowledge from people of ignorance and evil. They seek knowledge from people who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of them who commit shirk and kufr, and some of them who claim to call to Islam, but they call to various types of bid'ah, religious innovation. They call people to worship in ways that were not legislated by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They invent newly invented ways and methodologies of understanding the Quran and the Sunnah. They undermine the way of the Salaf of this Ummah. So I wanted us to take a brief moment to talk about some fawaid and what we gain from the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَاسْأَلْ أَهْلِ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. And there are many lessons that we can gain from this, and many blessings that we can attain from this if we implement this by worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on basira wa ilm wa fiqh, not based on desires, not based on hizbiyah of coming together on falsehood, forming new groups and new sects and new manahij in ways, criticizing the ulama, undermining the ulama, when we being the most ajhal an-nas, the most ignorant of the people, now raise their heads and they spit and slobber from their tongues and they leak a wretched and putrid smell from their breath and their tongues, which permeates the societies and infects the youth and calls them away from the book and the sunnah and the inheritors of the Prophet alayhim afdal salatu wasalam, and that's ahl al-ilm wa fiqh. That's the people of knowledge. And as the Salaf used to say, talaki ilm ala ahli. That's all we can say. We can plead with you. Talaki ilm ala ahli. Take knowledge from its people.
Habibti fillah, Imam Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi, rahmatullah alayhi, rahmatan wasi'ah. He mentions about this verse, Masala ahli dhikr in kuntum la ta'lamun. He says, أو ما يلزم المستفتي إذا نزلت به نازلة أن يطلب المفتي ليسأله عن حكم نازلته، فإن لم يكن في محله وجب عليه أن يمضي إلى موضع الذي يجده فيه، فإن لم يكن ببلده لزمه الرحيل إليه وأن بعدت داره، فقد رحل غير واحد من السلف في مسألة. Imam Al-Khatib Al-Baghdadi, rahmatullah alayhi, rahmatan wasi'ah, he mentions about this verse. He says, first, it is an obligation upon the one seeking a fatwa that related to something that has occurred from amongst the maybe contemporary issues, that he takes this knowledge from a mufti, from someone who has this knowledge, to ask him about the ruling regarding that issue. And if he doesn't have a mufti in his locality, it's an obligation upon him to go to a place where he can find him. And if he cannot find him in his country or in his general locality, then he should make a journey to him even if it is far from his home. And then he ends by saying, for verily, more than one of the Salaf used to take journeys just to ask about one issue. That shows you how they were about ilm and knowledge. Unlike those people who just play with knowledge and people who put themselves in position to just answer any question, to involve themselves in anything, to talk about nationalism and foolishness, and they haven't studied Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen. وَعِيَاذًا بِاللَّهِ وَإِيَّاكُمْ وَأَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنْ أَنْ أَكُنَّا مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Imam Al-Sa'di mentions about the same verse, أحبتي في الله. قال in his tafsir, أهل الذكر, he explains who the people of knowledge are. وهم أهل العلم فإنها عامة في كل مسألة من مسائل الدين أصوله وفروعه إذا لم يكن عند الإنسان علم منها أن يسأل من يعلمها انتهى. Imam Al-Sa'di rahmatullah alayhi, he mentioned about the concept of Ahl Dhikr, the people of knowledge. He said, "Hum Ahl al-Ilm, they are the people of knowledge. Ahl Dhikr, the people who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala often, the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises and loves and says He's يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا عِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ, that He's raised them in levels." He says about, Imam Sa'di explains in his tafsir, he said, وَهُمْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ, they are the people of knowledge. And that is general, that meaning the verse is general, that they should ask, the people who need this knowledge, they should ask about every issue related to the religion, from its foundations to its branches, if they do not possess knowledge about those issues. And they should ask to the people of knowledge about issues of knowledge. So here we see that Imam Al-Sa'di rahmatullah alayhi, that he's clarifying us, which is ma'roof in the Salaf, ma'roof min minhaj al-Salaf. It's well known from the minhaj of the Salaf that ask the people of knowledge, that you don't just go to any juhal, any person who's just ignorant, any person who puts themselves on social media. You can't do that. You have to know something about the people you're taking knowledge from. Know if they are people who are trustworthy with knowledge. Are they coming up with aqwal shadh, issues that are strange issues that were unheard of, that are undermining the da'wah of the Salaf as-Salih, ridwanullahi alayhim. You have to know who those people are. Those are the people you ask for knowledge is Ahl al-Ilm. Those people who are trustworthy, proven and tried, and who are in the minhaj of the Salaf, Ahl al-Ilm wa fiqh al-Sunnah. Another benefit of this ayah, ahabati fillah, this also comes from a statement of Khatib al-Baghdadi, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatan wasi'ah. He says, وَإِذَا قَصَدَ أَهْلَ مَحَلَّ لِلْإِسْتِفْتَاءِ عَمَّا نَزَلَ بِهِ فعليه أن يسأل من يثق بدينه ويسكن عن آمته ويسكن إلى أمانته الفقهية والمتفقة. So it's in his book, his well-known book. Imam Khatib al-Baghdadi rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatul wasi'ah, also says in this context about, and this is a benefit from this verse, he says, if the people of a locality are in need of a fatwa, they're in need of knowledge with regards to the issues that they are facing and encountering in their locality, then it is upon them, or is upon him, this individual, if we're talking about an individual, to ask a person who's trustworthy, who they trust regarding his religion, and to then be comforted in their trust, having faith in the answer that the person gives you, Not just shopping for fatwa. Well, that didn't go with my desires. I think I'll go to someone else. That didn't go with my desires. Let me ask somebody else. Let me ask somebody else until I get an answer that agrees with me. No. And he says, so it's to be someone who trustworthy in their deen, that you trust them, that they're known for knowledge and trustworthiness, and then you accept that. Bi'idhnillah ta'ala. Imam al-Qurtubi, rahmatullahi alayhi, he said in this regard, with regards to the ayat, he says, وَكَذَلِكَ لَمْ يَخْتَلَفَ الْعُلَمَاء أَنَّ الْعَامَّةَ لَا يَجُوزُ لَهَا الْفَتْيَةِ لِجَهْلِهَا بِالْمَعَانِي التي منها يجوز التحليل والتحريم. So Imam Qurtubi says about the ayah in general, he says that it is well known, and the scholars they're in full consensus about, that for a person from the lay persons, it is not permissible for them to give fatwa, to give religious verdicts and rulings due to their ignorance. Meaning it's not a negative that you're insulting them in that sense, but if you haven't studied, this is a level of ignorance. And even if you have studied, all of us have levels of ignorance. We all have levels of ignorance. No one is kamil in their ilm. But the person who doesn't have those tools at all, who's a lay person, it's not like a tawayl, not like a small student of knowledge. The small student of knowledge is not like a bigger student of knowledge, and the bigger student of knowledge is not like a sheikh, and the sheikh is not like an alim. And the alim might not be like the alim rabbani, perhaps. There's levels. So he mentions that it's not permissible for them, due to their ignorance of the meanings of the text, meaning going into depth about many meanings. We're not saying about those things which are clear and understood and well known, especially regarding the issues of halal, that which is lawful, and haram, that which is unlawful.
Also, ahabati fillah, in this ayah, فَسَلَحْ لِذِكْرٍ كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ, there are other many benefits. One of the other benefits is this ayah shows us that there's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to seek knowledge, and you seek one of the ways, the tariqah, the wasa'il, the means to gaining knowledge is asking the people of knowledge. That is one of the that's a tariqah min turq, that's a path from amongst the paths to gain knowledge, because Allah commands you with fas'al ahli dhikr. He commands you, he says, ask the people of knowledge. It's in the imperative form. And we've already talked about how al-amr fi wujub, that when there's a command in the shara, in general, it shows that it is an obligation. Also, we see in this verse that this ayat also is a refutation of those people يتعمدوا الجهل بحجة أنه لا يحاسب أمام الله سبحانه وتعالى. So this is also a refutation of those people who make the excuse and say, hey, I'm ignorant about the deen. So I'm excused by ignorance. So this is a refutation of those who try to use that as a hujjah, meaning the point here is that some people try to use as an excuse to say, hey, I'm ignorant, and they just remain ignorant. So they believe by staying away from any knowledge and remaining ignorant, they can continue to do major sins and many sins. No, that's a big mistake. But rather, it shows us that we have to ask those people, if we have a means to knowledge that is easily accessible, then you lose that excuse of ignorance. You can't say, well, I'm just never going to go to the masjid and ask, and I'm never going to, and there's all kind of people of knowledge in your locality, but you're going to persist in doing many things that you have doubt about and just not really care about learning your deen. In fact, this reminds me of what happened today. I went to the gas station. I met a man. I asked him because I thought that he was from a particular country. And he, I just was, because I wanted to make conversation in relation to that. So he said, I'm from such and such country. I said, SubhanAllah, that's a Muslim land. I said, yeah, I'm a Muslim. And he said, yes, I'm a Muslim too. And I said, Assalamu alaikum. I said, wa alaikum salam. I said, mashallah, because his business is right next to the masjid. It's literally 1 block away. He said, I said, oh, do you ever go to the masjid here? He says, no, I don't. He says, but I go to the one in my
city really far away. I said, oh, you should, come sometimes, because he's the owner of a gas station, making, lots of money. So he said that, my clothes. And I said, oh, your clothes are not going to prevent you from going to the masjid as long as you don't have najasa. I said, as long as you don't have, akramakallah, urine or defecation on them, and so forth. And he said, oh, okay, really? He's born Muslim, he's an older guy, I don't know, you can't judge anything about his heart, but he said, oh, really? I said, yeah, you can just go there. And he said, okay, thank you, jazakallah khairan. So excuses like that, things like that, is that excusable? Only Allah knows. But you could easily ask, if you really wanted to pray, you could have asked the imam in that local masjid. You don't have to hide. You're one block from the masjid. I can't imagine being a business owner, meaning I own the business. I call the shots. I can hire someone. I can literally close the door for 20 minutes if I want and walk to the masjid easily. And I'm going to allow the hukum on my clothing to prevent me because I think this. But this is not excusable. So it's a wajib to gain knowledge and ask knowledge about those things you don't know. Also, we learn from this ayah, Habati Billah, is the benefit that there isn't a time except that there is ulama, except in the very last days of our existence on earth, as a sign of qiyamah. Then the people of knowledge will be removed and the ignorant ones will prevail, and the worst of creation will be mawjood. They'll be present. We know that the Prophet ﷺ in this regard said, "La tazal ta'ifatun min ummati dhahiril haqq." He said, there won't cease to be a group from my nation on the truth. La yadurruhum man khalafahum wala man khadalahum hatta taqum as-sa'ah. So until the hour is established, they're going to be present, meaning Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Hadith is going to be there. And of course that means from them are those people of knowledge, because they're the asl. Also from this verse, Ahabati Fillah, another fa'idah is this verse also shows us that it is also an obligation on the people of knowledge to answer your questions. We need people, we need our students of knowledge, if they know, and others, to answer questions. People have a need to get things addressed. So, we try to do our best. It depends on our level of knowledge. But those who are more knowledge amongst us, they have a big responsibility. They need to answer the people. The people have a great hajah. Or the people go to people who are ignorant, and the people who are half-baked, and the people who are just mubtadi' adhal mudil. Wa'iyadhan billah wa iyyakum min dhalik. Another benefit, ahabati fillah, of this, and we'll probably end with this last fa'idah, is that it shows us that this verse is evidence for the one that doesn't, to describe the one who does not have knowledge, doesn't possess the ability, meaning the ability to go into many issues, or in the deen, or in depth about the deen, or what have you, that if they don't have the ability to know the evidence and do research, that they have to do, then it is upon them to make a type of taqleed of the ulama. That is upon them to follow the scholars in that regard. Because in those things you don't have the ability to, you have to trust someone for that knowledge. Those people who have more knowledge than you, because you don't have the qudra. For example, most of us don't have the ability to really get into the sciences of hadith, so we trust great imams that who specialize in the science of hadith, and we trust their judgments. We say Imam Al-Albani, Shu'aib Arnut, whoever from Ahl al-Ilm, we trust them, and the great muhaddithin of the past. We trust them in their ahkam, in their rulings on hadith, because that's their specialty. And there's an element of taqleed, because we trust them in their knowledge, or we trust them fi sunniyatihim, meaning, and they are known from people to be on the Salafi minhaj, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. We ask Allah Azza wa Jalla, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.